Hello friends. I've started the majority of my videos with this, but I might as well say it again. This video is gonna be a little bit different from the other ones. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the critical examination of the gray. The point of this is to get you to think about something and potentially spark a dialogue. If you disagree with anything I say, or if you found something different, feel free to leave a comment down below, or send me a tweet at any time. Because of my fascination with the gray between the black and white situations of life, I will present multiple pieces of evidence that will show the context of where disagreement and/or disobedience is needed or not needed, respectively. Now, without further ado, here is the power of disagreeing. The first hypothetical piece, I'll call the black, is a situation where unquestioning obedience may be beneficial. When someone is attempting to control you for your own benefit, you will find greater success in obedience. For instance, think of driving on a holiday. Let's say there's a parade going on in your small town that you're driving in, and there are security guards and barricades surrounding the streets where the parade will be taking place. The option that would make the most sense would be follow the implied orders of the guards and barricades and not go into the street that will have many people walking through. They are there for the protection of the people behind the barricade and yourself, meaning you benefit as a result for following the authority in this situation. Now let's think of a white situation, a situation where disobedience would be the better option. For this example, I have to use an extreme situation to get the point across, but that is not indicative of every white type situation. This is a situation that could have possibly been the cause of the end of the world as we know it if someone blindly followed orders. I introduce Stanislav Petrov, the Soviet that didn't press the red button. In the tense days of the Cold War, the Russians developed a new way to be able to detect if there were any missiles coming towards them from the United States or any other adversaries. Petrov's job was to alert his higher-ups when his system flared up so they can retaliate quickly. One day, all of his systems were indicating that the worst had happened. 5 missiles going directly towards the motherland. His job, or his superiors, dictated that he would have to tell his higher-ups about his findings, which in turn could start a devastating conflict between the two superpowers of the world. However, he used his better judgment and chose to disobey this one command, and later found that he had made the correct decision as the system had failed him, and he potentially saved the world. Now, a gray situation, a situation in between these past two hypotheticals, where there is a less clear way to tell if you should disobey or not, could be found in someone's daily life, as this phenomenon is more common than the other situations. This is a situation that is most impacted by your personal sense of morality or what you're used to in life from your upbringing. Let's say for this hypothetical that you work at a food service place that is intended for entry-level workers and is in a neighborhood with a wide range of different income classes. One of your customers is a few dollars shy of what they need to pay and has no way to get the money. What you may have been instructed or expected to do from your superiors is to punish them in some way the restaurant seems fit, or refuse to give them food. However, if you know anything about the situation they're in from their perspective, you would be more inclined to give them some grace. So what would you personally do? You would be in the right to follow orders and refuse them food or ban them from the restaurant, as your superiors may have instructed you to do so, but you may also be in the right if you don't cause a scene and make them pay less for their food because of their mistake, as this scene may impact the amount of customers that come back to the store in the long run. In the gray situation, Your authority was not looking over your shoulder, and you had full knowledge of the choice in front of you. But what if you were in the same room as your boss? Take this example. A researcher named Stanley Milgram conducted a psychological study to see what people would do when put in a situation that challenged their morals under the instruction of a figure of authority. Essentially, he had a participant shock another researcher that they thought was a participant when they answered questions incorrectly. Only the participant thought the situation was dangerous because no shocks were actually administered. These shocks became progressively more severe, and the more they shocked, the more protests would come from the other room. These protests were fake, but real enough for the subject to understand them as a real threat. When the subject expressed discomfort at the situation they were put in, the researcher, in the official white lab coat, would tell them that their cooperation is necessary for the experiment to go on. Because of the authority figure telling them to press on when they had protested, the majority of the participants gave the lethal shock. With the figure of authority standing over them, it was easier to forget that they had a choice, the choice of disagreement. But if only they had disobeyed. Your decision to disagree can easily impact others, even if the vast majority of people scold you. Like I said, disobedience is a choice, and sometimes it's difficult to tell if it is the right or wrong choice, or if it's just a choice that has unseen implications. But why do we care? There's one final experiment I'd like to briefly shine some light on, and it was conducted by Solomon Asch. In this experiment, a group of 7 people, 6 of them being told what to say before the experiment happens, and 1 subject that is operating on their own free will be answering some very simple questions. These people were asked to examine line segments correlating with a single line on flashcards. This is an incredibly easy test by design, as they were trying to measure the responses of the subject, not whether they understood how long a line is. When the 6 plants answered these very obvious questions incorrectly, this led the independent person to be very confused, and they would either stick with their own thoughts and answer correctly, but inevitably be ridiculed by their peers, or conform and get the answer wrong with the group. Again, why should you care? Well, when the researcher told one of the people that they had hired to get an answer correctly, or at least give an answer that's incorrect, but not the same answer that was incorrect from the rest of the group, the studied participant would be much more comfortable giving the correct answer because the group's decision was no longer unanimous, and the pressure to conform was not severe. You may easily take from this that the introduction of diverse ideas to a closed system can inspire dissenters to reveal themselves, but this can get out of hand quickly. Please, 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 don't forget to look at the context you are applying this way of thinking to. For example, if someone you don't like posts something on Twitter and you see a lot of people agreeing with them, you may disagree with the post because of the person, not the message. There's a possibility you may still be productive, but the chances of that are minimal because of the reason behind your disagreement. On the other side of this, if you see someone doing something wrong with their full support of the commenters, and you point out that you don't agree, you may expose others that were not as bold as you to give them the temporary courage they need to support you. Not necessarily disagree with the original poster, which is much easier for people to do. I'll say this again because I think it's really important for you guys to understand this. It is easier to agree with someone who disagrees than it is to disagree from someone's primary message. The point I'm trying to make is that disagreement or disobedience should not be looked at as a right or wrong action. It should be examined as a choice that you have. So, what will you do? Will you take my words and change your life for better or for worse? Or will you disagree with me and live life as you have been 20 minutes ago? That's all for today. Thank you for listening, and goodbye, friends. Da 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 da.